Welcome, dear students. This is the third video related to the poem upon Westminster Bridge. In the last part of the previous video, I quoted a few words from the poem. The words were silent, bare, calm, open, smokeless air. I again want to begin from there where I left in the previous video. Here the poet wants to say that the morning is very clear. The morning is very clear. It is without any obstruction. Without any obstruction. Silent. The sense of quiet. Sense of quiet. Purnataya Shanti. The sense of quiet and peace. And of being uncluttered. Uncluttered. No confusion there. No obscurity there. It was quite open. It was clearly visible. Everything. And then the poet uses the expression smokeless air. In the modern age, 2020, it is quite difficult to understand smokeless air. But here I want to mention that the poet means to say that activities of the day have not begun yet. The activities of the day have not begun yet, so it is quiet. It is calm. And then smokeless. Smokeless means the fire is not lit. Before the fire is lit, that was the time. Fire is lit means at that time LPG gases were not available. The fuel, coals were burnt for preparing meal. So smoke came out from the chimneys of every houses. And apart from this, the smoke coming out from the chimneys of the industries. So here the poet wants to say that at that time, in the early hours of the morning, there was no smoke, there was no fog, there was no smog. Everything was clear from the earth to the sky, and everything was clearly visible, and that made the sight majestic and beautiful and fascinating and attractive. And it compelled the poet William Wordsworth, when he was crossing the river early in the morning on 3rd September, when he looked at the scene, he was so impressed that he had to express his powerful feelings that London was the best place on the earth. And now come to the sestet. Come to the second stanza of the poem. Never did sun, the almighty sun, never did sun more beautifully steep. I have told you, students, I have told you guys that the sun has been personified here. The sun has been presented like a person here. As the person steeps, as the person comes down from the top of the mountain to the slope, similarly the sun's rays, the sun is coming down from the top of the mountain to this city. To this city in his first splendor. His pronoun his has been used for the sun. This is the example of personification. In his first splendor, the first glittering rays of the sun, the first glittering rays of the sun, valley, rock or hill. Now in this state, the poet uses some natural objects, some parts of nature like valley, rock, hill. So in the early hours of the morning, not only the man-made structures like temples, ships, towers, but the natural things like the valley or rock, these things are also covered with bright sunlight. Bright sunlight. These things are bright and these things are glittering in the bright sunlight, and it makes the scene quite beautiful. Then the most important line of this poem that reflects that William Wordsworth is a great admirer of nature. He is a great devotee of nature. What does he say? Never saw I, the poet is talking about himself, William Wordsworth, never saw I, never felt. Here I want to mention, this is the example, another example of hyperbole. Never saw I, never felt a calm so deep. In the introduction also, I was forced to say, मैंने इतनी शांति, मैंने इतना सुकून जीवन में पहले कभी महसूस नहीं किया, कभी महसूस नहीं किया. I never saw such a beautiful scene and I never felt such a deep calm. When the poet saw this beautiful sight, this glittering sight, this fascinating sight, he was spellbound and he felt calm, a great calm. So here the poet wants to say that he experiences such a feeling of calm that he has never experienced before. Dear students, this is one of the features of this poem being a romantic poem. Only a poet like William Wordsworth can say these things. That in the very early hours of morning, early in the morning, when he saw the scene around Westminster Bridge, when he saw his own city, London, that was talked about its activities, that was talked about its din and bustle, that was talked about its noisy atmosphere, and when on that particular day, very early in the morning, he saw the smokeless air, the silent atmosphere, everything quite visible, he was spellbound. Then the river glideth. I have already told you. The river here refers to Thames River, the Thames River of the city London. Glideth is the old English word. Glides, modern English, glides. The river glides at his own sweet will. Again, boys, pronoun his has been used for the river, and this is another example of personification. So the river has been personified here, like the sun. So the river glides at his own sweet will. ये नदी भी अपनी मर्जी से बह रही है. अपनी मर्जी से बहना क्या होता है? अपनी मर्जी से बह रही है. It means there is no disturbance in the river. There is no obstruction in the river. Activities have not begun on the banks of the river or on the surface of the river. So the river is gliding quite naturally. The river is gliding at his own sweet will, sweet wish, means everything is quite natural, everything is quite spontaneous. Then the poet says, dear God, the poet is overwhelmed. The poet thanks God for such a beautiful, majestic sight. Dear God, the very houses seem asleep. The very houses, all the houses in the city London, all the buildings around the Westminster Bridge seem to be asleep, seem to be quiet. All the persons are still sleeping. This is why the atmosphere is quiet. This is why the atmosphere is peaceful. This is why it is calm, it is silent, it is bare, it is open. All the houses seem asleep. The people are still sleeping, so activities have not begun yet. And all that mighty hurt, dear students, mighty hurt, here the expression the mighty hurt refers to the city London. The mighty hurt. London was, as I told you, London was virtually the capital of the world at that time. It was the most important city of the world at that time. So it was the mighty hurt, the city of London, nerve center of so many activities, center of attraction for so many reasons. And that mighty hurt is lying still. It seems that the great city, the most powerful city, is lying still. Here still means sant, sthir. Here the great city is lying still, is lying calm. And this calmness gives the city London a special character. A special character. Here I want to mention that there is oft repeated question, how does the poet present London in the beauty of the morning? It means that this poem is about the city London. The poet William Wordsworth has presented the city of London as it looked in the beauty of the morning. And the whole poem is about this. Then, what is the mood of the poem? What is the mood of the poem? And the mood of the poem is tranquil. Tranquil. So tranquility. Tranquility is the main word that describes the whole poem or describes the mood of the poem. What is tranquility? Feeling of calmness, peace, something that gives you a deep calm, as the poet William Wordsworth felt. I have told you that William Wordsworth is known as a poet of nature. The poet of nature means to find beauty, to find peace in nature. Not only beauty. So many things are beautiful in nature. It is another thing that we have no time or we have no sense to look at the beauty or to admire the beauty. But here, the poet William Wordsworth not only admires the beauty in nature, but he finds peace, he finds calm in the beauty of nature. And here he has done a wonderful thing. He has made a commercial city, the most powerful city like London, a part of natural landscape. He has presented, William Wordsworth has presented London as a part of natural landscape because it appears to be very beautiful in the beauty of the morning. So this is the complete explanation of the whole poem. Dear students, I hope you have understood it clearly. You have understood the terms, the use of figures of speech used in this poem. I have tried my best to explain these things. So, thank you again.